Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for our EDC coffee chat. We have Powell Jones on with us this morning. He is the executive director of the Dungeness River Nature Center. So we're excited to have him share with us about the brand new facility and the surrounding park and lands. Just a few items, reminders, if you'll please put yourself on mute so we don't inadvertently pick up any background noise. And if you have any questions or want to have present any comments, you can do that either by raising your hand or put that information in the chat and I'll call on you. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Powell, who can share his screen, and he's got some slides for us this morning. So thanks so much, Powell, and take it away.
Good morning, everyone. So like Colleen said, my name is Powell Jones. I've worked at the Dungeness River Nature Center, formerly Dungeness River Audubon Center, for about 20 years. September will be my 20th year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our expansion project, our partnership, how we funded it, why we did it, and kind of all the goods about our project that I'm sure you've maybe seen a few pictures of or been by our building. So I'll share my screen here. And I'll play. And I'll do this. Perfect. Can everyone see it? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So we are the Dungeness River Nature Center. We were formerly known as the Dungeness River Audubon Center. I'm going to talk about that first, actually. We changed our name about 3 years ago, made the decision to change our name to be more equitable to all of our partners. So we have 4 partners in our partnership, which would be ourselves, the Dungeness River Nature Center, the Jamestown Sklallam Tribe, Olympic Peninsula Audubon Society, and then National Audubon Society. And I'll go through real quick what each partner kind of does. We're the partner that we only focus on here. This is our mission. This is our deal. So Dungeness River Nature Center, this is all we do. The Jamestown Sklallam Tribe, we actually sit on tribal reservation land. So they are the landholders. They actually lease the building to us. So they will take the building into their inventory. They're our landlords. They're very good to us. So we negotiated a lease with Jamestown Sklallam Tribe for this building for $1 a year for 25 years, and then 3 renewable terms. So 75 years for basically $75 for this new building. So amazing partner. Olympic Peninsula Audubon Society does a lot of programs for us. So they have a similar mission to ours about outdoors and inspiring people about birds. Ours is a little wider, but it's a really nice fit. So they provide a lot of our teaching. And then National Audubon Society really provided us with exposure both now and in the beginning to give us a jump start. So when we actually first started many years ago, I was a National Audubon employee, and we switched that basically to Jamestown. So we raise the money here at the center through donations, grants, foundations, you name it. And then we pay the Jamestown tribe to pay us. The reason that we do that is we hop on with their HR and we get a much better deal. So National Audubon was charging us about 15%. Jamestown charges us about 4% over what we raise. So it was an amazing deal. So all 4 of us kind of band together, and what we do is we run a park and we try to accomplish this mission, which is to inspire understanding, respect, and stewardship of our natural and cultural resources. We also redid this mission. This is our new mission. The old mission is very similar to this. It just has more words. So we basically shortened our mission, and we put a real commitment on to really trying to do the cultural resource part of it. All of our partners raise money for us. So as far as operating funds, they all do some kind of fundraiser or work with us on fundraisers to basically employ the staff. So the staff is paid like a nonprofit. We raise our money and then it goes out and pays for our programs. What we do to accomplish our mission is a lot of things. This is what most people know us for. So we do kids field trips. We take every 5th grade student from Port Townsend, Sequim, and Port Angeles on a normal year, of course. And we do water quality field trips to help them appreciate watersheds and take that on past them and make a great community to live in. We do 8th grade, 6th grade, 4th grade, and high school field trips, all kind of with that same mission, but maybe a different way of getting there, of trying to get kids to appreciate the outdoors. We go into classrooms. So when we go into classrooms, we're trying to teach scientific method, science in general, outdoor observation, and then once again, trying to build on that appreciation. And let me tell you, that's a cute little girl in the middle, because that's my daughter. I was so lucky to get to go into her class. We bring them to the park. So we obviously go to their classes. We go to other parks. So this girl that has a couple pictures over that was hugging the tree, that was actually at Jimmy Come Lately. We do field trips in the Upper Dungeness, at the mouth, and then of course in our park. We do adult education. So we are not just a kid education. I would say we do as much or more adult education as kids education. So this is an example, exploring the Dungeness watershed. We go to events and represent birds, wildlife, and people at those events and our mission. And then of course, we do birds. We're an Audubon Center, so we obviously teach a lot of classes about birds. And this one was a virtual one during COVID, but we do the same class in person. And we've been doing all this stuff for 20 years. And after about 14 years, so in 2014, we're in this little teeny building doing all these programs. And to give you an idea of some numbers, we were doing about 7,000 or 8,000 people a year in programs, another 7,000 or 8,000 people walking into the building. And I can't tell you how many people we had to turn around because we were operating out of a 1-room building. So in this building, besides the offices, in one room, we had a gift shop, a kitchen, displays, a museum, and we were running meetings, classes, and everything in between. So in 2014, we really made a commitment to look into getting a new building and building one. The partners in about 2016, 17 signed a commitment to raise the funds and get a building built. And so what we ended up with is, of course, this. This is from looking from the west side. So this is our new building. I'm going to take you for a tour through this building. I will say that things are changing so quickly around this building that I can't get a new picture quick enough until it's old. So as soon as I take a picture, it's old because things are changing so quick. The new building, if you look up in the upper left side there, you see something that says exhibit. That's the old building, and the bird viewing room was our old office. So everything outside of that is new. So we added a separate gift shop, of course, storage and meeting spaces, and a dedicated office, a lobby to serve as events. And I'll show you here in a second, a couple spectacular pictures of what that looks like. A small meeting conference room, and then a large meeting room. And then we also added, along with this, commercial catering kitchen. So allow events to easily be catered by outside sources. It's important to note before I give you a tour of the inside, this is not just a building expansion. We really redid the whole, we're in the process of finishing this, but the whole west side of the park was redone. So that means new entrance road that's flat, paved, without potholes, lit with security cameras and easy accessibility for ADA. Of course, it's a fancy parking lot that takes all the water and filters it, which is what those islands are. The outside also got a very amazing treatment of Colleen high day concrete work. So if you look around our building, it has some of the most spectacular concrete work because of a local contractor. We improved access to the building from the ODT, and right now we are definitely working on an ODT project, which I'll cover at the end of this. We also, because we're an environmental institution, we put in facilities for future solar. So we're prepared to add the solar pretty easily. And then of course we put in like charging stations and that type of stuff for EV. So this is our building coming in from the east side. This is taken this morning, so fairly new, obviously. Like everything, Jamestown has its water feature out front. That's beautiful. As you walk in, this is a night picture of what we call our flyway or our atrium. The building was meant to mimic the bridge a bit in the middle. Obviously, it kind of looks like that. Kind of something fun is when we were building it, a lot of people asked us, because this middle portion went up first, if we were extending the bridge all the way out here, which is just the look we were going for. So pretty excited about that. These are some of the spaces. So the one on the left is the small classroom meeting space. The one on the right is my old office, which is now a bird wildlife viewing area out onto a rain garden that was completely installed by volunteers in 2 days. So when you come down here, check out that, because it's pretty amazing what volunteers can do in 2 days. We are contracting with Hurricane Coffee to provide a coffee shop on the left. So we're pretty proud that we were the first section of the ODT. We were the first flush toilets, the first water fountain, the first bike station, and by God, we were going to be the first coffee station right on the ODT outside of a city. So Hurricane is going to operate this for us. And then on the right, sustainability has always been a conversation with this building and how we're going to sustain it. And it's everything from a gift shop to how we run more programs and the full 9 yards. So we decided early on that we needed a dedicated gift shop space too. This is our big meeting room. This is somewhat of an old picture because it doesn't have our new screen in there. So this room fits about 150 in theater style, which is what it's set up right there. Not 150 chairs, obviously, but fits about 150, 100 at tables. So like a dinner type of thing. It's got a room divider. It's meant for events, classes, and presentations. And this room, when it's all set up, will have definitely top of the line AV and IT capabilities. So something to book for meetings and all of that. This is what I consider the heart of the center. I am a teacher at heart. Before I was the director here, I was the education coordinator. And so our new exhibits, which are in the old building, so this is that old room, it's dedicated exhibit space going forward. It will be a trip through the Dungeness. So you would enter the room on that lower right door. You would go through alpine and subalpine and montane forests and riparian and lowlands and estuary. A lot of our old mounts, if you had been in the building, like the birds that we have, actually go into these. These are 3D modeled trees and all of the rest. So this feels like more of a world-class museum. Not that it wasn't awesome before. I loved working in the old building, but that's a little bit more of a homespun museum that we had. And this will feel much more like walking into something like the Royal Victoria Museum or something like that. So obviously attractive to tourists and other people, and also to teach out of. To the left, even though it doesn't say it, that small room up in the upper left by itself is where we raise fish, so salmon, and then we hand them out to kid, and then that's the bird viewing room on the left. This is what a conceptual design of it. It's changed a little bit since this drawing, but give you an idea where those animals are. Those are actual taxidermied animals that are set into the displays. This room will interpret the Dungeness from kind of a 3-point stance. We call it the ABCs. So it would be the abiotic factors of the Dungeness, the biotic factors of the Dungeness, and then the cultural factors, really focusing on the Jamestown Sklallam tribe and their relationship with this watershed. I just want to talk real quick about this future programming. I mean, as somebody that's an eternal optimist and seeing a much bigger space, I really see that our future programming is endless compared to what we had, just because of space and the ability to separate it out and close off rooms. So we'll continue to do what we do well, so which is teaching bird classes and kids, and then of course look for more teachers and presenters to expand upon what we teach. Because we have larger spaces, we have increased capacity to serve, more people at once, and also give discounts to people that can't afford it or, by other means wouldn't be attending. It's not only have larger spaces to allow more people, but that IT that I was talking about eventually will allow us to do Zoom at the same time as doing classes. I think for all of us, we learned a lot of lessons during COVID, many harsh lessons, but some good ones. And one of the good ones that we really learned was we have an audience not just on the Olympic Peninsula and not just in Washington. Our audience is in Arizona, California, Florida, and the East Coast. When we were doing online classes, we had people log in from all over because of their interest of our area. I don't think I have to tell anyone on this phone call that our area is spectacular, and a lot of people are interested in either visiting or moving here. And so our classes provide them a glimpse of our area through eyes of being, a naturalist. Construction funding, good one to cover since this is an economic phone call. So GST served as our construction supervisor. This was a big deal. When we first went to go to bid, because of COVID and everything, our construction costs doubled, exactly doubled. This was originally a $2.9 million project. COVID, lack of being able to get materials, doubled it to 5.8. Out of that 5.8, 75% was raised by volunteers writing grants or asking individuals or foundations. The state of Washington taxpayers provided about 1.5 million. So we got an appropriations from the House to do that. And then JST provided about 25%. If you were a donor to this project, it went into the four walls, the foundation, the windows, the drywall, the electrical in the building. JST did everything outside the building. And so JST, or the Jamestown Tribe, paid for parking lots, sidewalks, entrance roads, entrance features, landscaping. All of that was just paid for by Jamestown. Like I said, kind of get a glimpse of how we got that money. So private donations, foundations, state, government, and grants. Something that was very important to me is that we used almost exclusively local contractors. So we turned around and took that $5.8 million and we tried to put it right back in our community by paying local contractors. I think probably the only exceptions to that were the exhibit design is a non-local contractor. And there's one more in there, but most of this money came back into our community, which was important. And then the campaign for us ends here in just about a week. So we are almost done with our campaign.
So Powell,
Sure.
One thing, I always look at things from an economic standpoint, and that's something to really emphasize from my point of view. And because, so you use some government money, so therefore prevailing wages kicked in and all the requirements that go along with using government money. But so often, whether it's a library, a school district, the city or a county or the port or the PUD, they also, of course, government money. So all the requirements kick in. And then there's virtually very, very few local companies that get any of the work. And so, and often what happens is we hire a general contractor that's from out of the area, and then they're a signatory to unions. And so therefore they can only hire union companies, and we have so few in our county. And so the work and the money goes to companies outside of our area. But this, shows that you can do and hire local companies. And I think that's just so important. And they have the skill set and the talent to produce something like this.
Yeah, and I wouldn't just say the skill set and talent. They definitely have that. I think that this building in some aspects has definitely world-class work in it. But I think something that also makes it very special about using local contractors is almost to a T, the painters, the electricians, the concrete, the framers would all come up and tell us stories about growing up on this river or experiencing this river, or how proud they were to be working on a project like this in our community. And that pride spreads. I mean, they bring back their families, they bring back their relatives, they show them this work. So hiring a local contractor, even if you think you might be paying a little bit more, the dividends down the road are going to pay off, in my humble opinion. You know, I'm not an economic person. I am definitely a community person, and I like to try to read my community and feed off of it. And this, I am so happy that we used local contractors, because I know the people's names that framed it. I'm their neighbor, I'm their friend, you know, as far as those type of things. So yeah, I agree completely about you hire out with state money. And if you hire those contractors that are out of area, they're going to hire subs out of area. So that's been a really big blessing with that JST being our construction supervisor. Is we talked about it, and Kirk Nelson, who was the main person as the construction supervisor, we really pushed for that local contractors be used.
But you still had to go with the lowest bid, right?
We do. Yep, we do. So we obviously rattled the bushes a little bit, but a lot of times the local contractors came back low. I mean, they needed work too. And with COVID, everything was thrown off a bit. So who knows if this isn't COVID, if they would have been local low bid. But that being said, I have faith that they would have been. Yeah, I'm excited about that particular piece. Yeah. So then I just got a couple more here, and then you can shoot questions at me, Colleen. We added a lot of pavement while building this project. So we had an opportunity. The Jamestown tribe, as they were funding the lower levee project, had the opportunity, because work came back less than what they had acquired in grants for the lower levee project, to remove our levee in this park. In this park, far as the lower parking lot, and what many of you probably remember driving in on, and that forest parking lot, it was always part of the plan to remove those. But when Jamestown came back and said, well, we have enough money to do more than remove them, what we would like to do is remove your parking lots, remove a levee that's been there since 1961, which I'll tell you here in a second about, and then recreate a side channel and a new bridge. Are you guys interested? Anytime we have the opportunity to restore a piece of this river, I would like to think that we're going to take that. So we right now are in the midst, literally our grand opening for our donors was on a Sunday. And then the next day, which I'll show you a picture here in a second, of 3 days after our grand opening, we started on a restoration project. The restoration project includes a bridge to span it, but really this is a restoration project. The reason that we're doing it is the way that you used to walk up to our bridge, you would park in that lower parking lot, you'd walk up a sidewalk and take a switch back and go back towards the bridge. You were actually walking up on a levee right there. In 1961, the river shifted to the east. It blew out about 150-foot section of bridge. The railroad's response was to rebuild the bridge and then build a levee right where this big kind of pool in the middle is of this conceptual river. So they built a levee and then constricted the river. So now we're removing that levee, and then we're going to build this wishbone design bridge, which serves as two things. When you come off the old bridge, which is those kind of stripes looking to the left, you'll go out, and where it was, it'll take steps down. That wide platform will basically serve as an event platform or a direct entrance into our new building. And then, excuse me, as you take a right, it's basically a bypass around our building. So people that are commuting, the ODT, which we have a great relationship with PTC, the Peninsula Trails Coalition, we really need to keep that open as much as possible. So things like Dine on the Dungeness, which I know a few people in this audience have gone to, that's actually pretty difficult for us to close the bridge. We're still going to close the bridge to do that. But for other events like weddings and things, which is part of our sustainability plan, this bridge or this design allows us to have a wedding and not close the ODT, and the wedding will have a great view of a river, a bridge, and kind of a spectacular setting. What it looks like, this is about a week and a half ago. This is an aerial shot of it. So a lot of trees had to come down, and we'll build a side channel right where about that white pickup is, will be a side channel re-entering the river. All of that sidewalk with the orange fence is gone. We'll tear that out and do a new approach both ways. A couple things about this project. We required, because we're on tribal reservation land, it's required that they reuse as much as they can of the things that they take down. So instead of sawing down the trees, they had to push down the trees, and they'll use them in a log jam. They're now clearing it and kind of getting ready to construct that side channel. I would absolutely tell you that this will be beautiful when it's done too. It's just a little bit of chaos right now dealing with, everything changing down there.
So is that, I'm trying to orient myself here. Is that looking like the left is east and the right is west? Okay.
Yeah. And so the new building's just off to the left. You can't see it. It's off to the left of that yellow excavator. Yep.
So you're not doing anything on the west side of the river?
We are
just
not
pretty much on the east? Okay.
No, in 2014, and probably some of you remember this, we had about 100-foot section blow out, and we had to, that was an interesting process in itself, but there was a lot of calls for us just to repair the 90 feet, like slap something down and open up the ODT. And Jamestown Natural Resources, literally the next day after that blowout, hit the road running and found the money and salmon enhancement money, which is what's also paying for this project right now, to replace all of the trestle on the west side of the river. So that's got now a very floodplain, salmon friendly crossing that we should not have to do anything with until I'm long gone, at least. Yeah. So that should be good as it goes.
Powell, is this part of the project included in that 5.8 million, or is this a different funding project?
This is a different funding project. So that 5.8 million was really, like I was saying, private donations and foundations and all that. This right here is paid for by Floodplains by Design, which is really about salmon habitat and restoring rivers. So this is paid through restoration money is how this is paid. So no private donations in this type of project. This is completely restoration. Yep.
Do you know what the price tag is for this restoration project?
This one's about 4.3 million.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
And this one,
is it Delher that has that contract?
You took it right out of my mouth, Colleen. I was just about to say Delher is doing most of the work, which they've been fantastic to work with. If you know the park well, you would know that right about where that yellow and orange excavator is sitting, there used to be an amphitheater, and to the south, which is top of that picture, there used to be a picnic shelter, which in that picnic shelter, I was trying to estimate this the other day, about 20,000 kids have gone through that picnic shelter with me doing field trips. Part of this project is they also have to replace the functionality of the facilities that we lost. So with this project, we will also get a new outdoor classroom, which will also be a rentable and usable space that's in a cedar hat design, which I really should have had in this PowerPoint. So my apologies there, but it's a cedar hat design. It's kind of a round classroom where you can open up 3 sides of it so people can still feel like they're outside. But as a park manager, I have the ability to shut it down. So just being very frank, when you have a picnic shelter that's open, you're running a field trip at 9 in the morning and you show up at 8:15 to go set out your stuff and somebody is graffitied across the table, F you. That's really hard to deal with when you are running field trips, because then my morning goes into a rush of cleaning off the table and trying to get it ready for kids. And that had a lot to do with, that was an open public facility. And open to anyone, including the people that went there at night with Sharpies or spray paint. So I am running a park, and there is some things obviously that happen in park that have to be mitigated. So we chose to have a closable outdoor classroom this time instead of one that was open. The park will still have picnic shelters, or not picnic shelters, picnic tables and places that you can get out of the rain to eat your picnic, but it just won't have an open picnic shelter like it did in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
And then last slide, it's actually just my questions slide. So I'll just leave this up for a minute and then I'll shut it down, and you can ask me anything you would like about River Center related things, if that sounds good.
So I have some questions, but if other people do, we can go to them if you want to raise your hand or put your question in the chat. So I looked, I've spent a lot of time out there. We take our dog out to the Olympic Discovery Trail all the time. And so there was a parking area that was just past the entrance, the new entrance. Is that now gone?
That becomes part of the river too. So out
Okay.
of all the places in managing this park for the last 11 years as director, that outer parking lot was one of my biggest headaches. So I think anybody that runs a park can say that if you stick a parking lot in the middle of the woods and you can't put cameras or eyes on it, it becomes a problem. And
Yeah.
that's, I think anybody would say that. With getting rid of that, we actually in our new parking lot have more space, have more event space. So we have expanded parking lot, which will be out into like grass and that type of thing by probably 3 times of those 2 old parking lots. The most inner parking lot was never supposed to be a parking lot. It was a dead end of a road. And then the one that you just talked about, we put in, that went in before I was here, probably in 1999 about, and it served us well, but it was an issue not being able to watch it. So.
Okay. And then there are, I think, 3 privately owned properties that are after the entrance and like beyond the entrance of on Hendrickson is
4, yeah.
Oh, there are 4 of them. And so is that something that the tribe is hoping to someday eventually be able to purchase, and or what's the story regarding those properties? Privately
We
owned
communicate
properties.
with all of our neighbors, and yes, we have first right of refusal on at least 2 of those properties that we would like to purchase. One issue with one of them, and I don't think we'll have this for a while, is our park is actually split by a piece of some property that comes out right near that restoration project. And we had to work with that landowner a lot, make sure they were all right with this restoration project. And they're the last ones on the left. Super nice. I'm sure we'll eventually get it. And yes, in the long term, for at least, I mean, I would like to think that we would like 3 of those properties. One of them, I don't think that we will ever have, and that's fine because we have a great relationship with our neighbors. So I'm not worried about that too much. And honestly, with the new entrance, I think all 4 of those neighbors are going to be happy about that new entrance, or are happy. I know at least 3 of them are, because it shuts the traffic off. They don't have the traffic going by them. So 3 of them are really happy. I just haven't heard from the 4th. I would assume that they're happy about being not on a thoroughfare of a park. So
yeah, right. Kind of now more of a dead end road.
Yep.
So I'm going to share my screen just for a moment. I pulled up the county's site just so everybody can see it. So it's hard to see. Let's see. I don't know if everybody can see this, but and there's actually, that's not quite right. As far as
yeah, and
go ahead.
Some of this actually isn't correct either. We actually own a bit more than this shows, but
yeah, that's why I took off the yellow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like this shows Jamestown.
Yep.
Is this one still owned by Clallam County, or is that now Jamestown?
That's Clallam
Can you
County.
see it's Clallam County's?
I think so. I'd have to look
Okay.
at another map to be sure. The 2 to the right is us. So
Uh-huh.
that field, and you can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And
Is,
then
and that's what I was gonna ask. And then this long piece
that's
here, that's
ours.
4.6 acres.
Yep.
You have plans? Do you know if the tribe has plans for development there, or this one to the south?
So the one to the south is where park hosts sit. So 2 things are going to go on that one to the south. Well, one's already there. So we have kind of like a state park. We have park hosts come for about 6 months and serve and be kind of our eyes and ears at the park when we're not here. So our park hosts now sit on that piece of property. And then our new classroom, those trees to the south on that property or lower on that picture, that
Like
one that
this
you were just on.
piece right there?
No,
Yeah.
the one where
Oh,
the park
this one.
hosts were. Yeah,
Okay.
lower on that property will be our classroom. So one stipulation with our new classroom is it's really got to be outside of the floodplain, 150 feet. So our new classroom, yeah, right about there. And then to up on that long strip, that's where our new parking lot is about a third of that. A third of it will be reserved parking, and then a third of it is a prairie restoration project. So the tribe is restoring basically what would be prairie right in there. Our new entrance road comes in, yeah, right there. That's
Right
kind of an
up
old
here.
road that we're using. We own both of those parcels. Yep. So
Yep.
our new entrance road comes in that, and then our new parking lot is basically where it says Discovery right there. And then past trail to the right where it says trail is where that prairie project is.
Right here, this one?
No, although the tribe does own that too. That's not part of our park. Now, right where it says trail down there.
Okay, yeah, the long 4.6 acre. Yeah.
To the far right on that one is the prairie project. The middle of it is our reserved parking, and the far left is our new parking lot. This is just an old photo.
Okay, yeah, that hasn't been updated. Got it. Okay, and I know Terry Grinnell's on, and I'm putting her on the spot, but does the tribe have any plans for this piece? Do you know?
That I really could not tell you.
Okay.
I really don't know what the long-term plans are for that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I do know that eventually that if possible, they want to get a right of way to go back to their prairie project so they don't have to go through the parking lot and stuff to get to their prairie project. I don't know that that will happen or not, but that is a possibility that that's added to the prairie project.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing there. So Rebecca has a question. Rebecca?
Hi, no, I was just curious how many total acres there are there. And by the way, it is absolutely stunning, Powell. Congratulations.
So state of Washington's really weird far as water law and rivers. So as the river shifts, our property gets smaller or bigger. We own to the center of the main channel of the river. So you're going to hear a very generic answer from me here in a second about the size of our park. So right now the river's pretty far to the west. So I would guess our park's bigger than this, but what I tend to tell people is 75-acre park is what we have. Right now it's probably about 85 acres because the river shifted that much. But this is a dynamic river, so we really don't try to do things outside of where the river's not going to move. So sometimes we have more ground to explore with people and sometimes we don't. So 75 acres is what I would say.
So
thank you. I'm sorry, Colleen.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's been a really long time since I've been in any environmental classes. How much does the river shift annually?
It doesn't happen necessarily annually. It can shift like in the year that they took out the bridge on the other side. So the trestle on the other side, it shifted, I would say, in 2 flood events. So I'll just do a little natural history here real quick. When our river floods, it gets really wide and then it might not shift back to the same spot. It has a an option of shifting to either spot. So what happened in 2014, actually 2013, is the river flooded. It got big. It shifted to the west. When it receded, it came right back into its original channel, and that was a pretty large flood. Then in 2014 in February, it flooded again, but it stayed in the channel that it shifted to. And on that shift, I would say 75 to 100 yards is what it moved, east-west. Yeah, pretty far. I can't hear you, Colleen.
Sorry about that. Is there a reason why Clallam County holds that piece that is to the west of the Jamestown property there?
Can you ask that again, Colleen? Sorry.
Is there a reason why Clallam County holds that, is the owner of that piece that's just to the west, and that, do they have expenses associated with that, or what's behind that?
I couldn't tell you that one. Yeah.
Randy, do you know? I think Randy's still on, maybe not. Yeah, okay. You'll have to remain a mystery. Yeah. Okay, anyone else have questions here? Looks like Patricia has one.
It's just a basic question. There's no totem at the park that I saw, and that's unusual for a Jamestown project. And also, since you had the blessing without a totem. So I'm wondering, is there a totem or two going to show up in that entryway or somewhere?
Should I leave you in suspense? So a couple things there. Totems are extremely expensive. So to give you an idea, a totem is about $4,000 a foot. So a 60-foot totem is $250,000 almost. And so some of the biggest ones out there are 60 feet. We are most definitely going to get sklallam art that is going to make this very obvious that is a sklallam building. So in the future, we're on the list, and this is still probably a couple of years away, but we're on the list to get at least a welcome figure, which is, it's like a mini totem. They're about 12 to 15 feet tall. So do you know the log cabin building that they have out by Squim Bay right on the highway? There's a little short totem out in front of it. That's a welcome totem. So we'll definitely get one of those. What we requested actually for this building was not a totem. The Jamestown Sklallam tribe, although they have very talented carvers, their traditional art is not totems. It's actually house poles. House poles are very much like a totem. They have that 3D feel, all of that, but they typically look like they're holding up a piece of the roof. It's kind of symbolic, right? So the front of our building, if you remember the shot in the beginning, there's 4 flat poles in the front of our building. Each one of those gets a house pole attached to the front of it. So they're like totems, but they're not totems. So if that hopefully answers it a bit, Patricia. Yeah. So yes, we get our totem, but it's a different kind of totem, a different type of art.
It's good to be unique.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brian has a question. Brian?
Yeah, I don't know how many of you grew up here. We used to get a lot of Washington history and stuff when we were back in the 60s, dating myself, from the tribes. And one thing they shared with us is that the totems are more the northern tribes that tended to raid and enslave. So that there's kind of thing in history too here. The first military action in the entire Pacific theater happened right here, affecting the Sklallam tribe over there well, go in the museum over there at Hansville. You'll be surprised. But yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Brian. It's much more of like a Tlingit and farther to the north, Vancouver art form. Yeah.
This being Juneteenth this week, I thought, that slavery lesson might be interesting for people that were unaware.
Yeah, if you want to look up a really interesting story, also look up why it's named Graveyard Spit out on Dungeness. That's an also very good history lesson about that type of stuff and enslaving people and what happens when you enslave people, right? There was some retribution brought back for enslaving a few Jamestown people. So there's a reason they're named the Strong People. They didn't sit back and wait. So Brian, I got to ask, are you then a SQUIM graduate or a Port Angeles graduate?
I grew up in Skagit County.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up with the Swinomish and the Sauk tribes and
Yep.
the tribes over there.
Yep. And for anybody that didn't know, I mean, I probably should have said this in the beginning. I am born and raised in SQUIM, so my passion for SQUIM is pretty high. Rick, you had a question. I see it.
Yeah, I guess just give me a recap of the current status. What's open, what's closed, when the new restoration will be done, kind of.
That's a fantastic question. So I'll start with the building and then I'll go to the park. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So the building, you could probably come in, knock on our doors, and we'd let you in now. However, our open house is the 6th and 7th of July, and then we're going to kick it right into an event on that weekend, which is kind of our nature mart. So come on down those days. That being said, if I'm in the building and I see you walk up to the front door, you'll probably see me run out and say, oh, come on and take a look. I mean, I like to show it off, and I think it's a community resource that people should see. So that's far as the building. Far as the park is open right now. That being said, we're about to build a bridge and have to tear out a levee. So they've done as much work as they can without closing the trail. The trail will have to close July 5th. So the day after July 4th for about 4 months to get this project done, which in the grand scheme of civil projects, this is happening very, very quickly. You know, we're going from nothing to a new bridge in roughly about 5 to 6 months. That's pretty incredible to be able to pull something off like that. To tell you that they will deliver, I have not seen Jamestown not deliver on something like this. On the other one, which was an emergency project, it was roughly 3 times more bridge than we're doing on this one. It took us 11 months from the day it blew out to the day that we had a public opening. So this one will happen quicker. It's a little bit more controllable, and it's a lot more accessible than that last one. Should also say at the same time, when we're doing this restoration project, we had the old bridge inspected. That old bridge is on the National Historic Registry. We are not tearing it out. It will stay beautiful in there, but it needs some work. So one of the first things that the company that inspected it told us was, cut down the trees right next to it. It needs air, it needs to breathe, it needs to stop having leaves on it. So right now there is about 7 members in that bridge that we need to replace. It's not going to fall over anytime soon, but that is on our hit list for the next few years of having to replace those members. They get replaced with non-creosoted timber. So we're not going to put back in creosote because it's a creosote bridge. I would challenge anyone in here. There's actually 2 timbers that we've already replaced on there. I've never had somebody say something to me. The contractor at Jamestown, the carpenter, is extremely talented, and he did this faux finish on the wood that makes it look like it's creosoted. Like you would think it's creosoted. So we will go and have to do that as well, which eventually will probably cause a couple short closures. That bridge is very unique in that the whole thing in 1915 was assembled in 3 weeks. It's basically a kit. And so the pieces that are bad, we can unbolt them. We take out the piece, put a new piece in, and bolt it. We're allowed to do that because there's a ton of redundancy in that bridge. It was meant to carry 100-ton trains, not 1,000 people. Is nothing on that bridge. So it's not anything that's going to make the bridge fall down, but it is something that we're addressing at the same time. Yeah, sorry, a little bit more of an answer, Rick, than you probably wanted, but there you go.
So Powell, that the time frame that Jamestown's able to get things done in is also due to the fact that as a sovereign nation, they issue their own permits in certain categories. And I'm not exactly sure what those are, but they don't have to deal with, port officials could say, but like they do something in water work and there's 13 agencies that they have to get permitting through, which can take years.
We
but
still have to get some,
but not
Yeah.
all.
not all.
And I think, yeah, and if it's property that, and you know, they know the intention and the mission of the tribes is to restore and to be, to protect the natural environment. So I think that that changes the process dramatically, even if there are a couple different types of permits that
Oh,
the tribe has to
absolutely.
get.
I would
Mhm.
agree 100%. There's no way that a project like this happens in 6 months, not on reservation land, in my
Right.
humble opinion. I wouldn't
By-
know better because I've worked here the whole time, but
Mhm.
we still have to deal with Army Corps for sure. And we still have to deal with Washington State Fish and Wildlife and all of that. But like you said, Colleen, they know the intent there is to restore, and it's on reservation land. Most of the time they'll green light stuff pretty quickly for us to be done, like that project on the other side in 2014, and frankly, the project on this side.
Mhm.
So it does make it easy. Typically, tribal land moves from fee land, so they buy it like anyone else. They determine the use for it. It's moved to trust land, which takes a few years, and from trust land, it moves to reservation land if possible, in order to be able to do some of these projects.
Mm-hmm. And what's the difference between trust and reservation lands?
In simple terms, the land is being held in a trust by the US government for the tribe. Tribes typically do not like that. They want to own their land. Reservation, it's theirs. It's not being held for them. So Jamestown, this is their land. So when they can move to reservation land, they typically move it to reservation land. For any user of this park, that doesn't mean anything to you. You enter it, you're fine, you're good. It allows us some different avenues to acquire funding from like BIA for things. So like as an example, and this seems like a simple thing, but they're expensive. We have a counter on our bridge. It'd be 10 grand for us to buy a counter on our bridge. BIA would just give us one because they want to know the people crossing reservation land. So we get one through BIA. So those type of opportunities open up for us because we are reservation land and owned by a tribe.
So we have about 5 minutes left. And this is an economic forum, so you lease out the meeting spaces. Can you talk about like that process if somebody wants to lease it out? We're leasing out your larger meeting room on July 1st for a nonprofit teaching program on the new Nonprofit Corporation Act. And then for the from 1 to 4 p.m., we're having a North Olympic Legislative Alliance priority setting session there. I'd love to, and so we leased it out for the entire day for that. And I think what's really important for us is that it's got that two-way virtual meeting capacity where people can really have a great interactive experience with your new AV equipment, as I understand. So we're really looking forward to that. And then also, I know Rotary has their meetings there every Friday morning, and they donated $250,000 from Bryce Fish.
Yep.
Yeah, that he left to the club. So can you talk about the meeting space, and does that money go to you, your organization?
Yep.
Then
So I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
First, thank you for doing that conference because the new nonprofit laws are confusing. So we are going through that in our own board. So any nonprofits on this line, if you have not done that and gone through those laws, I would highly recommend attending that because that's been a little bit difficult to navigate on our own, but we're doing it. Yes, all of our spaces for the most part are rentable, obviously not our office and stuff and not our exhibit room. So part of building a new building was to have an exhibit room that's open to the public and as like a attraction to tourists all the time. That was a huge problem for us in the past. So you can rent the kitchen, the big room, the meeting room, you can rent the whole kit and caboodle. You could rent the back plaza and eventually that bridge that's coming off. You would contact our operations manager, Vanessa Fuller, to do that. So Vanessa can help you. If it fits into our schedule, we do it. We want to be a community resource and not something just for ourselves. So you can come down and rent those and kind of figure out the package that you want. All funds that you pay to rent this goes back into education. So literally when you pay to rent here, that's me out with a 5th grade field trip. And that's about what that big meeting room will pay for. If you rent that for 4 hours, you are paying for a 5th grade field trip. So that's to get them here, the hours for my time and our education person to be out there teaching kids about all of that. There is a big shout out to Rotary. Yes, they gave us, and that's something I should have said in the beginning about what they funded. Rotary's donation through Bryce Fish was all the glass in the building. This building has super special glass in that it's bird friendly glass. So birds can see the glass because it's got this UV film in between the panes and it reduces bird hits by about 90%. So it's not a good look for an Audubon Center to have like a bunch of glass and birds dying on the glass, obviously. So that was a huge gift to us. Rotary meets here now every Friday. They were actually, and I think Patricia would say this, they've been our testers for the building. So they've gone through the very beginning when we weren't quite ready and they test it for us. Rotary didn't pay in the beginning to be our testers. So they tested out the facilities and they're working out the kinks. So there are still some kinks in the building that we're working out. The AV system, although Colleen, we will definitely have yours up and operating, something very nice. It's not the end product because we're waiting for one final computer to connect it all, which I got the email yesterday about. So when it's all connected, yes, it will do Zoom both ways, audience, speaker, and then sending that out to the world as far as being able to do that in a meeting. Yeah.
Great. I misspoke. It's June 30th, not July 1st.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, the nonprofit event is, the training is going to be given, the EDC is hosting it, but it's our chair, Jennifer Burkhart, who is an attorney, and she is the chief HR officer of OMC and their in-house counsel. And she helped us rewrite our bylaws, and she worked with one of her friends that's an expert and was helped write this law. And so, you know, you can't ask for a better expert than her, and she can answer our questions. So we're really excited to be able to host that at the Dungeness River Nature Center. So with that, I see it is 9:01. So I'm going to end this meeting. Thanks everybody for joining us.